Recently, I bought Ring Fit Adventure because I work a desk job, so I wanted a way to be active that didn't involve leaving my house or talking to people. Everybody kept saying how good this was as a way to trick yourself into working out. It feels more like a game than anything, but once I started playing this, I realized it is just a workout with a health bar. If I'm gonna be tricked into working out, it needs to be done right. I'm like a dog. If you're gonna feed me a pill, it needs to be wrapped up in cheese. And that cheese is gonna take the form of Mario Wonder. I figured out how to rig the Ring Con to work with other games other than Ring Fit Adventure, because apparently this can only work with one game, and now I'm gonna see, can I beat Mario Wonder with only a Ring Con? We start off in this little pregame section where I can get a feel for how these controls will actually play. Okay, so as you can see, I've got it set up so that pushing down makes Mario jump. If I run, if I pull out, that's the Y button, so it makes Mario run, makes him look angry as well. And then you can see actually turning the Ring Con does not do anything. For that, I have to be actually running in place for anything to happen. Obviously, this game wasn't made to be played like this, so I was a little bit nervous, but the controls actually seemed pretty responsive, which made me feel a little bit more confident. Confident enough to flex for some reason after playing for 2 minutes. There was some kind of plot going on, but honestly, I wasn't too worried about that. All I really wanted to do was just get buff. This guy better not turn into a castle. Oh no. And with that, we're off to World 1. Welcome to Flower Kingdom was, as expected, a pretty simple level. Your main goal is just to go to the right and get a feel for things. I was even landing some pretty nice ground pounds. It was great. Piranha Plants on Parade was more of the same. This level was definitely more of a show than a challenging level, but it was good at this point because I was still trying to get a feel for the controls. After luring me into a false sense of security, I was then thrown into Scram Skidaddlers, which presented slightly more of a challenge. This brought in enemies that could shoot me, and trying to time these precise jumps was a little bit difficult, but not impossible. I did get hit quite a bit and also had my first death by running straight off the edge of a cliff, then again by getting sniped by this weasel. How was I supposed to know he was about to do that? Before managing to make it to the end with both Wonder Seeds. Here I got my first of 2 badges that absolutely made this whole thing possible. The parachute cap is basically the Tanuki tail from Mario 3, but I can use it anytime I want, and I get to shake the Ring Con to activate it. Bull Rush coming through taught me just how important precision was whenever it comes to controlling these. In a normal Mario game, I could easily get like a nice 3-jump combo off of these mushroom things, but with the Ring Con, I could barely even land on one of them. For some reason, my brain just did not want to remember to hold the Ring Con in when jumping off of an enemy to get more height. I just was not doing it. I made my way through and beat the actual level, and then went back and got those remaining Wonder Seeds that were spread throughout the level. These Wonder Seeds help you unlock next levels, so it makes the most sense to get a lot of them here early on whenever the levels are easy. After beating Break Time, Hurry Hurry, I had enough Wonder Seeds to go straight to the area that was blocked off, which was a race against a Wiggler. The idea of a race did make me feel pretty nervous because up to this point I had been taking things really slow and carefully. Could pretty much only aim myself all the way to the left or all the way to the right, but luckily this level is mainly about timing jumps, even though I barely beat the Wiggler. I also did a badge challenge for a badge that I will definitely only use one time. Seems like that'll be useful. It was not. Now, was it smart to attempt a level that was 4-star difficulty when I was struggling on 1 and 2-star difficulties? No. But was I still going to pour out lives into this level and attempt to beat it? Absolutely. I kept throwing myself at this level, but after game overing, I figured maybe it was in my best interest to play some of the easier levels first. I wasn't trying to 100% this game or anything like that, so the best way to make it through this challenge was just to focus on levels that didn't require any critical thinking or precision. And that is why I loved this Hippo level. Not too hard, other than the middle Wonder Seed, which I nearly ran out of time getting. I just could not turn the right way. I had enough seeds at this point to go to the castle, but I did decide to explore a little bit more and beat the other levels with relative ease. I headed over to the castle and was greeted by this very rude flower.
Ew, what am I looking at?
Shut up, bro, I'm working out. The first castle was surprisingly easy. I'd made it through there really quickly, even with feeling a bit tired from playing for about an hour and a half at this point. I was feeling a little bit scared for the boss fight, but honestly, it was pretty easy as well, which I guess you can expect from a castle in World 1. Bowser Jr. made me big, which was my goal with this challenge, but then he made me small, which made me feel like he was commenting on my physique, so I killed him. I got the Royal Seed, and as you can see, I was very excited for it. Next up, I had a water level. Now, I did not take into account water levels when I was planning this video. The reason I chose this 2D Mario game was that it was easy to run right or left and jump, but water levels introduced up and down to the mix. The Dolphin Kick badge definitely did help with this, but it had the unplanned downside of making me look like a fool while playing this level. And only this level. I was thankful for this badge because normally on water levels you have to constantly press B to stay afloat, and for me pushing in the ring con was the B button, which definitely could have been a lot. The badge challenge seemed simple, but the next water level really took it out of me. I needed to collect 5 Wonder Seed coins to get the Wonder Seed, and to do this I needed to bait this big fish into breaking some rocks. The issue is I don't have much speed and I forgot to equip the dolphin badge, so most of the time I just kind of sat exactly where the fish was going to jump to. I eventually did make it and played through one more pretty fun water level and one not so fun bird level before making it to World 2, which I thought I was already in. Oh, that wasn't even World 2? World 2 presented my biggest challenge yet. Oh no, it's an ice level. Now, even playing regular ice physics are kind of bad to deal with, but then when you're using a controller that feels like you're steering a car, then it really starts to take a toll on you. I think this is best exemplified in this one section where I just could not get up on this block. I kept sliding off. Look at this. I just cannot get up there. This part took like 15 minutes. The first level of World 2 took me nearly 30 minutes to beat, which did not make me feel very good about the remaining levels, and the remaining game for that matter. I decided to end off this night and come back tomorrow. So I woke up and I felt sore in my right calf, which means from playing Mario Wonder, I am feeling sore. I don't know if anybody has ever uttered that statement before. I think it's a Luigi day today. I think it's a yellow toad day today, actually. Back into World 2, I started with Kick It Out My Way and made possibly the worst play in any Mario game ever. Can I just... is this just what you're supposed to do? Oh, I guess so. Other than that though, it wasn't too bad. Not too much to say about the next levels other than the section with POW blocks. See, I have the Y button mapped to pulling out on the ring con and the B button as pulling in, and because of this, I'm not able to use both of these inputs at the same time. This means if I jump, I throw the POW, there's no way for me to bring it with me anywhere. This goes for anything that you can hold in the game. At this point, it wasn't too big of a deal, but I was scared that eventually it was going to make things difficult or even impossible. For this particular section, I ended up just skipping the POW altogether and I jumped my way through. This was making me feel a bit nervous, but I ended up touching the top of the flagpole, which I did for the first time while playing, and that made me feel pretty good. Karts Away was a level that was blocking the path to the end of the world, and I absolutely hated this level. The Condart enemy flies at you pretty quickly, and even though I know what they're going to do, it's still tough because I have to move this entire ring con to avoid things instead of just one small joystick. The Wonder Seed of this level also introduced a section that required me to go all directions, not just left or right, which was very tough to do. Only going left and right was imprecise but manageable, but adding in 2 other directions really just made things a lot more difficult. I actually ended up skipping this Wonder Seed because I wanted to just continue through the game instead of focusing on one level that I was having a lot of trouble beating. I beat a level that allowed me to get the floating high jump badge, but unfortunately it was not the parachute cap, so I do not care about it. The next difficulty spike came from up and down with puffy lifts, which really made me use my ground pounds. Ground pounds aren't that difficult to do with a ring con, but they aren't very consistent. You have to jump, then swing the ring con back to make the controller think you're holding down, which works some of the time. It really didn't help that there were enemies and boulders constantly chasing me, and if I spent too long in one spot or missed too many of my ground pounds, I was dead. I found that the best way to do this was just to go as fast as I could and not really focus anywhere other than moving right and getting to the goal. It'll be nice to play this game like in my real time, whenever I can actually explore all the secrets and not have to be running in place, sweating. Right before I'm able to make it to the end of the world, I'm stopped by an auto-scroller airship level. Now, as someone who grew up playing Mario 3 on the Game Boy Advance, I was hype for this. But as someone who's using a fitness controller to play this, I was not feeling very good. It honestly wasn't too bad though. Really, the only enemy was this slow-moving firework thing, and I could pretty easily just walk past them or jump on them. The only bit of challenge came at the end, and that challenge was more like I wasn't really paying attention and I got crushed by this machine. Once I actually knew what I had to do, it was pretty easy, and I made my way into the castle. The main difficulty with these castle levels is that enemies just spawn wherever, which really messed up my playstyle of just run right as quickly as I can. I did get excited because I got the bubble power-up, but that was Short-lived. Let's see how long we can hold on to the bubble this time. Bowser Jr. fight was once again not too difficult, though he did bring back ice physics, which made things a little bit more tough. I really had to focus up on this level because I had 0 lives whenever I started it, so if I died, I would have had to start all the way back at the beginning of the castle. I was so focused I didn't even keep up proper form. How am I gonna get buffed now? It was a very close call on that final hit, but I managed to beat World 2 Castle on my first try, so I decided to end off my night and save World 3 for tomorrow. It's time for World 3. I got on the Luigi shirt, so you know we gotta pick my boy Luigi. Last time, we kinda messed up, kinda misfired, didn't get to pick Luigi. This time, though, for sure, we're gonna get my boy. Toadette it is. In World 3, we're introduced to these jumping guys, and they aren't that difficult with this control scheme, but I do need to be slow because if I jump towards a surprise one, then I don't have enough control to get turned around enough quickly. It was especially hard with these big guys since I have to jump first, which means I don't keep any of my momentum, so there were tons of close calls because the startup to run underneath them was just too slow. On top of that, sometimes there just wasn't that much room on the platform, and I wasn't able to stop when I wanted. I'm not really sure if you can tell from the footage, but putting the Rincon to the center didn't really keep it centered unless I was very still. This means that trying to stay in one spot was very slightly moving the Rincon to the right, then to the left, then to the right, and trying to balance it the best I could. After very slowly making my way to the end, I did get another Wonder Seed. I did the high jump badge challenge, and this really showed me how tough the Rincon was to play with. What would normally just be holding down and jumping now turns into tilting down, then pushing in and swinging up at an angle to try to get to where I need to go. I'm sure this badge is useful in regular play, but the way that it would work with this would just make it pretty much impossible to get through any level. When I went into the Anglefish trial, I wasn't really expecting it to be too difficult, but once again, the Wonder Seed portion of this was really tough. You're supposed to jump on these enemies to climb higher and higher, but this one section just felt like it was impossible. I just couldn't make it from one side to the other without just falling to the bottom of the map. I feel like I was trying to play like Doodle Jump, but worse. I realized about halfway through that I should probably switch to my parachute cap so I had a little bit more time in the air, and once I did, that worked, but I can't imagine how long I would have been on this if I didn't use that. That was all okay though, because on the next level, I got to play as one of those jumping guys, and man, I was really enjoying it. I was also starting to feel the workout and just constantly pushing in the Rincon, especially for this part. I know it might not seem like that much, but doing this over and over again with running in place and pushing in over the span of a couple hours, it really can start to add up. I started to realize that these levels were not really that hard if you look past the Wonder Seed portions. The actual beginning to end was fairly short, so I could keep that in mind while progressing. But that preparation would not prepare me for the final trial Trck Dash. This level was not difficult. There weren't that many crazy jumps, you didn't have to dodge that many enemies. The issue with this level is that there's a secret ending that's the real ending, and without it, you can't progress. I'm already handicapping myself by playing with a weird controller, but now I have to focus on where the secret could be, and I just wasn't in my element. I made it to the fake end pretty quickly, but after that I wasn't really too sure what I was supposed to do. At the end it looked like there was another path I could take, so I figured that would probably be the best option. I wasn't even worried about the middle Wonder Seed because like I said, things are usually shorter without taking that extra time. I started to get pretty frustrated because every time I beat the level at the fake ending, it would bring me all the way back to the beginning instead of the checkpoint, and this was annoying because I thought that the secret exit was near the end, but as it turns out the secret exit was through the Wonder Seed that I had been skipping this entire time, which is before the checkpoint. Oh look, I finally got this Wonder Seed. Oh, maybe this was the secret ending. This wasn't even difficult because of the controller, I'm just a little bit dumb, but I did make it to the end, and for my efforts and pain, I didn't even have to fight a boss that world, they just gave me the Royal Seed. That was a nice little distraction of a world before I got to World 4. I'll start off by saying I hate World 4. From everything that I've seen, it seems like people really enjoy World 4, but for me, it was just a nightmare. I don't know if it was because of the Rincon, or maybe I just don't like this, but this was bad. Now that we're on to a new world, I'm gonna pick a new character, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, he's gonna try to pick Luigi again, and then gonna miss, and that's gonna be the whole bit. But no, this time I'm going to intentionally pick the wrong character that's not Luigi, so that we can, have a little bit of time. Clearly, Luigi is not the one for us right now, so I'm gonna go with, I guess maybe Daisy? Yeah, alright, let's go with Daisy. We start off with a little introduction to the sand physics, which is basically just that you don't jump very high in the sand. Maybe it was because I was doing something physical to control, but when I was playing this world, I felt like I needed to push even harder on the Rincon, and somehow that would make me jump higher. it didn't. I spent 2.5 hours trying to make it through this world. Here are the highlights. This parachute cap level was so difficult that even now, I do not know how I'm supposed to get past it. I just skipped it and I never came back, which is lucky because I needed 15 Wonder Seeds in this world and I had to at least try every single level to get that many. In the Desert Mystery level, I ran into the issue of the B and Y buttons again, with these things I'm supposed to grab being up in the air. It was literally not possible with this control scheme to pull these things, so I was probably missing significant portions of this level simply because I couldn't do this one action. I beat the level pretty easily, but I knew that this was just one Wonder Seed I could never get, and as I would soon learn, I would need as many as I could. Honestly, every level that I played was difficult just because of these controls. It seemed like this level really needed precision, and that just wasn't possible when doing this. This is paired with the large uptick in enemies that are a bit unpredictable and pretty hard to avoid, especially when you can't stop or move exactly how you want. I did a 4-star difficulty level with the high jump badge challenge, which, like I mentioned before, is the hardest badge to control. I did somehow beat the level, but it did take quite a bit of time. I had to make sure I stayed small to get past certain sections, and this last part where you jump on 3 falling platforms, I felt like I just got lucky at the end instead of having the actual skill to beat it. The only respite I had was a music level where I just kind of jumped around in a tiny area, but honestly, I needed this. Secrets of Shove-'em Mansion was a pretty cool level. I think if I wasn't trying to control it with this way, this would have been one of my favorites. But the main gimmick of this is that you need to push boxes, and to do that, you normally just hold right. But me, I have to run in place and get really immersed. I had to feel like I was actually putting in real work to move these boxes. Daisy, I understand the pain that you're feeling right now because I feel it too. Doing hard manual labor, pushing stones, running in place with a little piece of rubber and plastic. I worked up a sweat. This guy gets it. Other than the physical pain I was putting myself through, I thought it was a pretty fun level. I'm feeling it again really in my calves. I've been going for 2 hours straight of just running in place, squeezing this thing, pulling this thing, doing all of that. I realize now that that's a workout. I'm tricking myself into working out for real now, but it's a lot of fun still. Even though I was starting to feel the effects of the workout, I did have a great moment where I ran into Captain Toad. Is that Captain Toad? Captain Toad? No way. They got Captain Toad in this game? Captain Toad just gave me $50? Thank you, Captain Toad. I'm going to spend that $50 on Captain Toad for the Nintendo Switch. Color Switch Dungeon is another level that I think I would have a really good time with if I actually had good control of my character. The Shadow Mario part was really cool, but I couldn't enjoy it because even when I made it all the way to the end, I was still barely able to get to the Wonder Seed because I was scared I would just run into some enemy. All the other levels in World 4 were just as tough, but I eventually did get enough Wonder Seeds to get into the castle. On my first run through of the castle, I tried to get the midpoint Wonder Seed, but then I realized that that was a stupid idea because I am not trying to 100% this game, so I just made my way straight to Bowser Jr. This Bowser Jr. fight was definitely the hardest so far, mainly because there was water, so I just had to keep pumping on the ring con, but other than that, it went pretty smooth, and it netted me the 4th Royal Seed. On my way to World 5, I was stopped by another airship, and this one broke me. I don't really know why. Maybe it was because it was an auto-scroller, maybe I was feeling tired from running in place for 3 hours straight, or maybe the level's just hard. All I know is that this level made me want to quit. Every time I died in this level, I felt like a little part of me died inside too. Sure, this was good because I was gonna be buff, but at what cost? The cloud physics were just almost impossible to deal with, and then you add in fire and bullets, and I just kept going and going until I finally eventually made it through. My initial goal was to finish everything on this day, but after the airship, I decided to just save it for another day. Okay, I'll admit, I am kind of scared for Worlds 5 and 6. World 4 took so much longer than I thought it was going to take, and I assume that World 5 and 6 are going to be even harder than that. So I'm picking Luigi, we're doing it for real this time, I'm on him. We're going to make this happen in World 5 and 6. What happened to Luigi? World 5 wasn't that bad of a world overall. I didn't have to get too many Wonder Seeds, and they gave me the drill power-up, which let me go underground a lot instead of having to jump to avoid the enemies. The first level had this really great Halloween-themed Wonder Seed, which was a little tough to time the jumps on, but it was so visually appealing that I really didn't even care. The second level introduced these green things with handles, and I'm pretty sure I was supposed to grab and swing on them, or maybe like pull them down, but remember, I can't grab anything in the air. Luckily, grabbing these things was not a requirement, so I could make it through without too much headache. I guess Nintendo was keeping this playstyle in mind for whenever they were developing. Thanks for looking out. At this point, I started to feel like something was off. For some reason, the controls felt just slightly wrong, not enough to be completely game-breaking, but I could definitely notice something. I wasn't sure if I was just imagining it happening or not, so I kept playing through the levels and ended up wasting about an hour just trying to finish the first area of World 5, and I was trying to convince myself that there wasn't some kind of delay. I did end up resetting, and after that, everything started going smooth again. I played another Shadow Mario level, which was fun. I'm kind of hoping that I skip some of these in this playthrough so I can go back and actually enjoy them while not playing, like, this. The midpoint of World 5 introduced goo. Now, goo is pretty similar to water in the fact that you have to keep pushing the ring con to stay afloat and move, but goo is much worse in the fact that you move very slowly. I was giving my arms a crazy workout just by swimming around in this goo, and after a while my arms were starting to kind of feel that burn. Most of the pain I was in was coming from my legs and feet, but playing a level where I almost non-stop had to squeeze the ring con made me thankful that this goo isn't prominent elsewhere. I did have to look past my bias whenever I became goo for the final section of the level. My arms felt like goo as well. Alright, I'm gonna stop saying goo. Bad news, this was another fake out level. Last time I was told that there was a secret exit, but this time I in full confidence thought that I won, then was shocked that this was all just kind of a waste. When I restarted, I found the secret exit fairly quickly, but my arms still did not fully recover. But once again, the game followed up a bad level with a great level. I got to finally fulfill my dreams of being Spider-Man. Hey, if you can't afford a PS5 to play Spider-Man 2, then maybe give this level a shot. It's probably about as good. Swaying Ruins was a level that I spent about an hour trying to beat. The gimmick of this one is that the world sways back and forth, and that affects things in the level. But it also affects my jumping ability because I lose all my momentum, and without the ability to jump and run at the same time, it just made it very hard. This level had a lot of the things that just were not going in my favor for this particular playthrough. Precise platforming, having to pull on these things, and yes, a secret exit. Why is this game obsessed with secret exits? I struggled with just getting to the end forever, so imagine how much it took out of me to know that that flagpole was not the right one. Even the path to the actual exit was pretty tough. I wasn't really able to control my character because of more goo, and the jumps felt like they weren't working right, whether that was because of the level or because of the controller. The final trial of this world was also a pretty tough one. This was a level that demanded precise platforming with this rising poison floor. I went through like almost all of the badges that I had in order to figure out which one would actually benefit me, but honestly, it just seemed like this level wasn't that possible to beat at the moment, so I figured I would take a break. Alright, I took a break. I needed a break because I was getting very, very annoyed, a little upset with playing this, which is crazy. It's Mario Wonder. I'm getting mad at Mario Wonder. Taking a break did seem to help because I made it past where I had been stuck, and I was even smart enough to realize that this level was also probably going to have a secret exit. Definitely not falling for the old fake flagpole trick. Even though I did know that there was a secret exit, that didn't mean it wasn't also difficult. The controls for when I'm slimed didn't feel like they were working right. Since I can't really know what direction the virtual joystick was facing when I moved the ring con, there were a ton of times where I started just going the wrong direction, which leads to a lot of deaths. I did make it through though and beat the final level to save these things and got another royal seed. On the way to World 6, I got another one of my favorite power-ups, the boosting spin jump. This was basically a double jump which helped me a ton with precision. I used this badge quite a bit in the remaining levels, but I kinda wish that I had it sooner. It's not too big of a deal though because World 6 was shaping up to be my biggest challenge yet. I knew I needed to pull out the big guns. We're going with my man Luigi. No more jokes, no more playing around. It's World 6, it's Luigi time. Things started off with a puzzle level, which I cheated on. Remember, this is a fitness challenge, not a brains challenge. I spent way too long on another floating high jump challenge, and I'm pretty sure this one was supposed to be impossible for the way that I was playing. Since my run stops when I jump, I wasn't able to keep enough momentum to get to this final platform. Of course, this didn't stop me from doing the most technical and crazy save of probably this entire video. That was a well-earned Wonder Seed. I kind of thought I would hate World 6, but honestly, I had a pretty good time. The Wonder Seeds were creative, like this one where I'm a boulder and it sounds like I'm going bowling. There were lots of creative ideas in this world, like blocks that only show up when you're facing them. This actually went better than I expected because I have to constantly change directions, so they would disappear a lot. It was especially scary when I had to ride this platform and not have the blocks disappear while I tried to align myself in mid-air. I enjoyed another Spider-Man level, and to be completely honest, I think this level is probably better with this controller as opposed to a real one. I don't know how to explain, but you just have to trust me, it was a good time. There was a point in one of the levels where I thought that I was just at a standstill because there was no way to progress without grabbing this handle up in the air, which, as we know, I can't do. I ended up having to remap my buttons to where I had to use my forearm to push into the ring con and then used my fingers wrapped around the ring con to press on buttons. It wasn't ideal, but it did get the job done. The airship for this world also made me mess with the controls a bit. To hang onto these striped poles, I had to push down, but I couldn't move the ring con back up quickly enough to not just fall off. I ended up having to make the dead zones of the controller really big to compensate for this, and it still didn't work very well, but luckily it was only over a pit at the very beginning, so I just had to get lucky. I did make it to the end to open up the path, but I missed the Wonder Seed, which seemed like it wouldn't be too bad to do, so I kept that in mind if I needed another one. I had 11 of the 15 seeds needed, so I quickly got 2 from another level, then another from a Poplin base, which left me with just 1 more. I ended up making my way back to the airship to get the Wonder Seed from where I was, since I assumed it wouldn't be too bad, and I ended up being right. After that, I went to the palace, and it wasn't very easy because you had to be really precise with the platforming in order to be able to avoid the poison that was on the ground. I just made sure to play it slow and careful, and I was able to get through it pretty quickly. The Bowser Jr. fight was also really simple, and the wonder of this one was just kind of lame, to be honest. I liked the visuals, but the platforms in the back that move was just a little bit lame. Honestly, if I had any complaints about this game, it would be the castle fights. Like, if I can beat the World 6 boss in one try with a Ring-Con controller, then maybe things are a little bit too easy and predictable. But enough complaining about easiness in kids' games. It's now time for the final boss area. Well, folks, I think it is safe to say all of our hard work really has paid off. The final area is home to 4 mini areas that were like a gauntlet of sorts before you get to the final boss. The first one was really easy, like literally you just ride on a moving platform. The second one was worse, but that's mainly because I couldn't see anything. I've never really been a big fan of the dark Mario levels where only certain things are visible. It's an interesting idea for a gimmick, but even if I wasn't in a muscle suit using a Ring-Con, I still don't think I would like this one. The third one wasn't too bad, other than this one section where I needed to jump on 4 pipes in a row, which I don't think I've actually had to do up to this point. I didn't really have the luxury of adjusting myself super well in the air, so I had to make sure I timed the jump right and also put enough pressure on the Ring-Con to land where I wanted to go. Other than that though, it was pretty easy. The final level before the boss fight was called Knuckle Fest, which I found really funny. I did find it much less funny after I kept dying after the first checkpoint. I wasn't paying attention to any of the audio, and it turns out that you have to time your jumps to the music, which I didn't realize until much later on. There are also some pretty cheap areas in there, like these platforms that don't rise up until it gets to a certain point in the music, which I had no idea about the first time, so it felt like this death wasn't really my fault. I think I may have also been having some of those calibration control issues. I did end up having to reset everything, at least to trick myself into thinking things would work better if it did. It must have worked though, because when I came back, I ended up beating this level, with some pretty nice saves, might I add. It was finally time for the final boss, and I was not feeling very good. I thought the muscle suit would be funny, but it was also making things extremely hot. My left bicep was feeling a bit sore, and my feet were hurting from running on my carpet for like 4 days. But none of that mattered. I was ready to beat this. The castle brought back all the elements that had been difficult up to this point. The tilting world, the striped poles, the anglefish. There was this pretty cool section where I was floating around, and it kind of controlled really well. I don't know how to explain, but it felt very satisfying to play. The final fight against Bowser was a ton of fun to play because it was set to music. I felt like I was at some kind of musical fitness class. Like, look at me, I'm even running along to the music. This fight was really cool and visually really interesting, but it was also super easy because I couldn't fall off, and all I really had to do was squeeze the Ring-Con at the right time. After making it through a couple phases, I pressed the button on Bowser's head and officially beat Super Mario Wonder with a Ring-Con controller. This was a super fun experience that worked much better than I thought it would. Like I said, I definitely look forward to actually playing this game with a controller, but I did go through a couple sections with the controller and it felt different. Not necessarily worse, but I do kind of miss pushing down and having that interactivity. It weirdly was a bit immersive. So I met my goal of beating the game, but did I meet my goal of getting buff? Can we get a before and after picture on the screen? Oh yeah, this worked out real well. Feel free to like the video and hit that notification bell so you never miss another call to action. See you guys next time.